Hello there, good morning and welcome along to Good Morning Uganda, and we are here once again to inspire you, and I think it's the best way to kickstart off a Tuesday like this one. It's never a dull day if you start it with us, and here we are once again, a team that is dedicated to making sure that your mornings are all geared up, your mornings are filled up with information, news and everything that is happening not only in Uganda but on the global scale. And looking at it from the global perspective, you'll get to realize that lots of news, especially from the Middle East, are still making rounds across all media, roundtables and discussions. And of course, that is what you'll definitely experience from our international side of things when we will be diving into the international news. But also, yesterday in Kampala, some traders decided to close down their shops. Some, not the majority, but of course some. Many of those are also on the move to further continue with the strike that started last week. So we also expect a strike, a closed door strike, where we expect traders to close down their shops today. Again, in a strike where traders want the URA to make some changes, one in regards to IFRIS, two, VAT, amongst the other issues at hand, because many of them are saying they cannot survive in business simply because of the heavy taxes that the Uganda Revenue Authority is imposing on them. And today in our newsreel, by the way, we shall be discussing that and more to see what is next for the traders. We shall be having a voice from the Uganda Revenue Authority and as well from the traders themselves. We need to balance the two to understand what really will this, how and when will this battle end, because it does seem like it may not be very good to the ears of the taxman, because at the end of the day, when there is no business, then again it is affecting our revenue mobilization strategies or revenue collection in the long run. I am Joram Paul Sonko and I am with the team Robert Chirabonyonyi Ntono, Chantal Olive Akandenda, and of course Olive Monica Najuma, who is not with us here, but she will surely be with the team again, but she's still here with us in the same spirit. Now, before we go even deeper into understanding what is making headlines and what my team has actually seen around across the country, we will get to realize that yesterday the president of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, touched down Kampala. He was received at the Entebbe International Airport by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of regional affairs. That is Honorable John Mulimba, who received President Ramaphosa, who is here for an official working visit. And the president arrived on Monday yesterday, that was 15th of April 2024, and he was invited by President Yoweri Museveni, and he's also expected to meet President Yoweri Museveni today to discuss matters bilateral relations at State House in Entebbe. So with a lot happening in the world, you get to realize that Uganda is continuing to create these bilateral relations amongst other member states. Of course, it is very important and very fundamental, if you ask me, in regards to creating these relationships and how impactful they can add to our country's growth, and especially when it comes to the economic growth, by the way. It is very, very important because Uganda and South Africa have for years been so good when it comes to the business terms, and you will expect more deals to come up between the two. And now, away from that, we now get into serious action. Let me check on the team and see how they're doing, how their Monday was, and what they're looking forward to this month, or rather this day of Tuesday. Let me kick off with Chantal Oliver Kandinde. Chantal, good morning.
Good morning, Sonko. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling good. That's a nice green, I should say.
Thank you. Emerald green.
Emerald.
Yes.
I only know dark green and sky green, rather, and light green.
You know sky green? We have a problem. I don't know which palette. I don't know which palette you're using to find the sky green. I'm yet to do some research on that. But good morning, our viewer. Thank you for joining us. It is a Tuesday, and I'm hoping that you're having a wonderful week. The weather is a bit chilly outside, but we are hoping for highs of about 26 degrees Celsius. So carry light, but not too light. You just might never know. If you work in areas that usually get flooded, also be mindful when you're driving or using that bike through that road. Anything can happen. Please do take care of yourselves. Otherwise, welcome to the show. Sonko, did you by any chance pass via a road that has been closed off this morning?
This morning?
Yes.
No, most of the roads that I'm passing by, it's just potholes.
Oh,
industrial area. That's the route I normally use.
Well, not that it's funny, but it actually is funny because industrial area side flooded yesterday.
True.
And at a point even cars were just turning back. They could not pass, especially on 7th Street. That's what I could see. But this morning, the route around Serena is closed. Also the same route that has UETCL and I think UETCL and DCL. So if you're planning to use that route, I highly suggest you find an alternative route. And that is because we have some guests who are sleeping at the Kampala Serena Hotel. So be mindful as you are using that route. Some roads could be closed off for security purposes. So this is for the viewer who intends to use some of the routes around that particular hotel.
Of course, because we also have a visiting president in the country. So security is always on high alert, especially when we have so many visitors in the country of that caliber. I'm not saying if we do not have visitors coming through, the security is not on high alert. It has always been on high alert. But also to remind you, our dear viewer, the red eyes syndrome is something that we do not want you to forget about. It is always wise for you to carry a sanitizer with you, and also make sure that you wash your hands immediately after touching something or after interacting with anybody, because at any one moment you may easily get infected by red eyes. But also avoid touching your eyes in a situation whereby you've interacted with one person or the other. But away from that, let me check on Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono. Chirabo, good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, though a bit worried of the standoff by the traders because we know today they are going to be closing shop. They have a whole week of activities, and that is something that really we hope it doesn't go as planned, because today is closure of shops. Then they'll have tomorrow they will be taking a marching to Parliament with a petition. Then on Thursday, which is 18th, they will be marching with a petition to Ministry of Finance. Then Friday they will be marching with a petition to Office of the Prime Minister and State House. Now, what does this mean? If it doesn't happen very well, you may see chaos in the city. More so when it comes to marching with these petitions. You know, marching to the Office of the Prime Minister, then marching to State House, marching to Parliament, marching to Ministry of Finance. So all these, we hope we don't have a chaotic city during this time, because people are eager to make money. People are eager to make ends meet. So that is my only worry this morning. And then about South African president being in Uganda, we must understand that we've had a very good history between Uganda and South Africa. If you remember very well, during the days of apartheid, Uganda was one of those countries actually that played a big role. We had some of these people come home and they were trained here in Keweweta. If you follow up some of the apartheid fighters. So when you talk about South Africa and Uganda have that long-standing relationship, but also we have so many Ugandans actually that are working and staying in South Africa. Over 10,000 Ugandans are in South Africa. Some have even become permanent residents there in South Africa.
And even out of context, the wife to, that is President Ramaphosa's son, is a Ugandan woman. So you get to realize that the relations are way beyond bilaterals. But besides that, what you're seeing on your screen is what was happening yesterday as the President of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, was being received yesterday by Honorable John Molimba at the Entebbe International Airport. So high chances are we continue to expect more of what is going to be signed, or the deals that will be agreed upon by the two heads of state. And of course, here on your national broadcaster, we shall be bringing you every detail of that meetup, and of course, that is something that we will definitely have access to, apart from the closed-door meetings that will be taking over in the same. So that is something that you will be able to follow up here on your national broadcaster.
One more thing.
Yes, Chantal.
Yes, even yesterday we had the former president of Tanzania, that is His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete, in the country with the President Yoweri Museveni, and hopefully this breeds some good opportunities for the Ugandans as well. But that took place as of yesterday.
Well, it does look like a busy week for Uganda in regards to having international guests coming through, or international delegates coming through. But of course, at the start of the year, we set the flag high, and we hosted 2 summits. Not only 2, by the way, there were like 3 summits, because others were happening on the sidelines of the 2 main summits. That is the NAM and the G77 plus China summit. But now, that aside, we dive into our local and international stories. But first, the local news.
We'll begin with the traders' strike for today, where traders led by the Kampala City Traders Association, Kasita chairperson Thaddeus Matovu, have officially announced a national business closure beginning today. The decision stems from what they called unfair taxation, including the high 18% VAT tax and the recently introduced electronic physical receipting and invoicing system, IFRIS. This was during a press conference held at their offices in Kampala. Despite calls from government officials to suspend the protest, the traders insist on meeting President Museveni, but only after receiving certified documentation from State House. They are also against the idea of handful of them meeting President Museveni, urging that they want to meet the president at an open place where they will share with him their business grievances. Traders stress that their actions are not political motivated, but advocacy for fair business. Last week, on April 18th, sit down, we saw the traders close business in Kampala. Moving on, former President of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete, attended the first inaugural Guild Leaders Annual Summit held at Makerere University. The summit brought together leaders of students' movements in Uganda to discuss policy, democracy, and leadership for better engagement in development. The summit featured debates on the role of multi-party politics in educational institutions and its potential impact on the core educational mandate. Leaders expressed differing opinions on the role of multi-party politics in universities. Kikwete called for patience, acknowledging sharing and elder guidance for the youth leaders, as well as investment in education for young leaders. He emphasized focus on monetary union and political federation to achieve solidarity and development. He acknowledged President Museveni's significant contribution to promoting East African community cooperation and integration. From the summit, a proposal emerged to establish an East African Leadership Academy, receiving support from leaders and emphasizing President Museveni's dedication to achieving East African integration. Still on the local scene, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Amongi, applauded Uganda People's Defense Forces Engineering Brigade for a job well done in regards to renovation of Mandela National Stadium. In the fulfillment of a promise made on Friday, April 12th, the Speaker of Parliament visited Mandela National Stadium with the intention of assessing the stadium's renovation works undertaken by the Uganda People's Defence Forces Engineering Brigade. The visit was prompted by a Confederation of African Football's inspector report that quoted the stadium as behind schedule and not fit to host games, a matter that was typically in Parliament for 2 days last week. At Nambole, the Speaker got a progressive report and later toured the facility that she said was very impressive and worth every penny. However, despite being wooed by the magnificent works, the Speaker ordered a quick evacuation of out-of-function Pioneer buses that have been parked in the space at Nambole Stadium. And finally, from the local scene, Forum for Democratic Change President Patrick Oboy Amriat has warned FDC founding president Dr. Kizza Besigye and the Katonga-based faction to refrain from violent means of capturing power of the party leadership. This follows events last Thursday during a nuclear mass of the late Sarah Eperu at St. Jude Naguru Catholic Parish, where Dr. Kizza Besigye declared Elias Lukwago as the rightful FDC president. And that is all we had from the local scene.
And now away from the local scene, Chantal, Oliver Kanenda is taking us across the borders of Uganda.
Well, we start off with the United States now. Donald Trump's unprecedented criminal trial has begun, with half of a group of potential jurors rolled out within minutes on impartiality grounds. Mr. Trump denies falsifying business records to conceal hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. 60 of 96 potential jurors were quick to say in the New York court that they could not be impartial. Those left were then asked multiple questions, including about their news and book reading habits. "I just couldn't do it," one prospective juror was heard saying as she left court yesterday. The dismissals were an indication of how challenging it could be to find a group of 12 impartial jurors for a case concerned with a high-profile sex scandal, including a former president running once again for the White House. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office alleges that Mr. Trump directed his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to pay Ms. Daniels $130,000 in exchange for her silence about an alleged sexual encounter that the former president denies took place. Away from that, Israel's war cabinet has met to discuss its response to Iran's unprecedented drone and missile attack. Israel did not make public whether a decision had been reached. Its allies have strongly condemned Iran's actions, but urged Benjamin Netanyahu's government to show restraint. While Iran has signaled it considers the matter closed, the Israeli military's chief of staff said the attack would not go unanswered. "Look, as we look forward, we weigh our steps, and this launch of so many missiles, cruise missiles, UAVs to the territory of the State of Israel will be met with a response," Lieutenant General Hatzi Halevi said. He did not specify a course of action or give a timescale. Former CIA head David Petrus had told BBC Radio 4's World Tonight program that Washington does not want to risk the well-being of global economy with an Israel retaliation against Iran. Now back to Africa. Most of the beds at the labor ward of Kihara Level 4 Hospital on the outskirts of the Kenyan capital Nairobi are empty. Only 3 are occupied out of more than a dozen. A nurse says the hospital is not taking in women who need a cesarean as there is no doctor to perform the operation. The doctors here and across the country have been on strike for about a month now. Public hospitals are virtually empty. There is an unsettling silence in places normally brimming with people seeking a host of critical services. Patients are now forced to go to expensive private hospitals or delayed treatment, resulting into worsening chronic illnesses and sometimes deaths. Doctors are striking over a number of issues, including pay and the failure to hire trainee doctors who cannot qualify without getting an intern position. And lastly, matters climate. Climate activist John Gibbons from Kilkenny says it's time Ireland introduced a tax on gas-guzzling SUVs, and flights should get steadily more expensive the more a person flies. My eyes were open to the climate emergency 21 years ago when I had my first daughter. It is a cliche, but fatherhood really was a turning point for me. I began to think the world she would grow up in. It was the first time in my life that I thought beyond the next 2 months. Maybe it was serendipity, but around the same time I read a book called Something New Under the Sun by Junior McNeil, which is basically a history book of the biosphere of Earth in the 20th century. It explained in exquisite detail how humans are overreached and how we are essentially exhausting the critical resources of life on Earth. I was astounded that I had gone through a good chunk of my adult life completely oblivious of the ecological biodiversity and climate emergency. And that shock never fully left me. How is it possible to be surrounded by so much information yet be so unaware? And that's it for international news and climate news.
Well, now away from the international scene, by the way, still from the international scene is that India's current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, is seeking for a transformative third term as the Indians get to the polls at this month's nationwide election. So will he be revoted or re-elected? We wait to see that, and more of those details will be coming in with our daily international news here on Good Morning Uganda. But now, as we sum up with this segment, let's get into what is making headlines from our press review. We kick it off with the New Vision, as the New Vision is breaking down for you the top earners to pay 58% of pay as you earn. What new tax amendment bills will change? Then also 12 NRM bosses in office illegally, according to a new report. Then Chikwete hails Museveni for his role in East African community integration and victory of the former Tanzanian leader with the president yesterday. Then NUP supporters denied bail for third time as suspected Kenyan land grabbers invade Bulambuli. More of that is in the New Vision. Now, Ugandans mourn Alika. Read about that in today's New Vision also. Then the Daily Monitor, you can read about the red eye, which where cases are rising to 7,500 in 3 weeks. How can you deal with this? How can we prevent it? More of that is in the Daily Monitor. Dr. Martin Jerome Okech Alika to get official burial from 1928 to 2024. A man who has been very fundamental, more so in Uganda's education sector as well. Now, you can also read about traders announcing strike across the country. Of course, follow more details of the same. Then, in the Rainbow magazine, children draw cheers in Kabaka race to fight HIV. That is with the Daily Monitor. Now, crossing the borders to Kenya, the Daily Nation is highlighting why Atwoli is under siege. Labour Sutu boss sided with Azimio ahead of 2022 polls. Then wage bill crisis, push for single payroll is on the way in Kenya. Then heavy rains wreak havoc as unrelenting downpours continue to wreak havoc across the country, leaving a train of death, displacement and destruction of property. Now, pesky baboons drive tenants out of estate. Which estates are those? Read about it. And then also ambassador jobs, all eyes on members of parliament as they prepare a report. Then out of sight, out of mind. Read about that in the Healthy Nation. Then book serialization beyond the call of duty. Read about that book and get to understand more about the author. Then Lastly, from the press review is the Citizen newspaper from Tanzania, which is highlighting TBS warns against excessive beverage consumption. As internationally, conflict Israel presses on in Gaza despite Iran attack. Then CAG reveals more details. Entities offer further explanations. Then Tanzania should do more on tourism, say the experts. Then what to expect from Samir's visit to Turkey. That is within the Citizen newspaper from Tanzania. And well, and that is it for now here on Good Morning Uganda. But stick around, because after the break, we have huge conversations coming up relating to the traders' strike. So you do not want to miss this, because today you might go in town wanting to buy something and you find those shops closed. But before we do so, we do have our inspirational song of the day, or the song that can lighten up your morning. And this particular one is coming in from Tyrus Riley and Cautions. The song is Single Blessings.
Chimney, new government, give thanks.
Sing it.
You know, every day,
Realest thing here in our world, brother.
we give thanks.
For real.
You spend all that money on your watch. How much time you spend with your son? So much money in the club. How much you spend with the ones you love? The simple things are your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings, your blessing. Simple things are your blessing. And you don't notice your blessings. You pick it with the shoes by your feet. Now pick and choose the friends where you keep. You now watch where you eat. When last you get a good sleep. The simple things are your blessings. Simple things are your blessing, your blessing. Simple things are your blessing. You better notice your blessing.
Sing it. Simplicity we use to survive. Many find it difficult because them ignorant and I. One alone they get you not go live another life. Telling them again but I know in a device. Life not get chance too often. Cut out some of the sadness and invest in a laughing. Time you take a stress, lifetime passing. Tell them say you love them for you see them in a coffin. Let me tell you this when you got good days, bad days. You know say you with up. Me would have trade house and car and cheddar. Just forget 1 more minute with my brother. So you better spend time together. Cherish every second of the day when you're there. Gotta tell ya that you're the close one yesterday. You put an angel over
The simple things are your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings, your blessings. Simple things are your blessing. And you don't notice your blessings. The simple things are your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessing, your blessing. Simple things, them are your blessing. You better notice your blessings. We've got life, so let's live. You make the time to chase the paper. When last you say a prayer. We've got life, so let's live. And while you're worshiping your treasure, remember nothing lasts forever. The simple things are your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings, your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings. You better notice your blessings. The simple things, them are your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings, your blessings. Simple things, them are your blessings. You better notice your blessings. Simple things, oh the simple things. Health and strength, oh the simple things. Let me tell you about the simple things. Family and friends, I know simple things.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Was brought to you by
just take a polite loan of 200k to stock on my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Two minutes of 7 o'clock and you're watching Good Morning Uganda. This is time for our newsreel. I am Joram Paul Sonko and this morning is rather a controversial one and it's a morning filled up with controversy, I should say, generally. In town, it may be sweet chaos for the traders, but it's not something the Uganda Revenue Authority would want to experience from the people who are contributing greatly to driving the revenue mobilization of the Uganda Revenue Authority. Now, besides that, last week on Monday, traders went on a strike. Shops in Kampala were closed. It was meant to be a 2-day strike. However, day 2, some shops reopened. In Masaka, shops were closed. The traders in Masaka had also joined the same battle of going on strike. And it's something that we thought maybe it will come to an end. However, as the week was coming to a closure, the traders decided that even this week, on a day, Tuesday, 16th of April, they will definitely go back on strike. And as we speak today, if you've been able to make it to town right now, you will notice or realize that we do not have shops open, especially for the traders, those operating in arcades. And the bigger question is, how far are the traders going to go on with this strike? Of course, when you look at the grievances that they've actually tabled, includes the electronic physical receipting and invoicing system, that is IFRIS. IFRIS was actually rolled out in 2020. Of course, in 2020, a few issues here and there simply because of COVID-19, but in 2021, it came back in full force. I, for one, when I was still doing a managerial role in one of the select shops of Shell in Chitende, I remember I was one of the people who got to experience IFRIS firsthand. It saved us so many things in regards to paying a weekly auditor to come through and run for us the auditing of our own sales and everything. But as of today, not so many traders are well conversant with IFRIS, and not so many of them are very happy with how IFRIS is actually enrolled in the country. But the URA is still taking its stand that IFRIS is not a tax. The traders, on the other hand, are saying it is another form of a tax, and it's becoming more difficult for them to make business in Kampala. Well, it will be back to you, our dear viewer. We are open for the comments and your opinions on this matter. But in studio this morning, I do have two guests, one coming in from the Uganda Revenue Authority, and this is none other than Ibrahim Bossa. Now, Ibrahim Bossa serves as the Assistant Commissioner, Public and Corporate Affairs at the Taxman, that is the Uganda Revenue Authority. Many thanks for joining us, sir. Good morning.
A very good morning to our viewers. It's a good day to be here and throw some light on some of the issues happening in our country.
Indeed, it's a good one to be here. And of course, I do have Joshua Mawerere, who is the chairperson, Kasita Youth League. He's in a good mood, I should say, because they are trying to stand on business this week. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, viewers. And it's an exciting morning when traders show solidarity. I think we are happy that we're moving the same strides forward and calling for the same things that we think the trading community desires. Thank you so much.
Okay, and when you mentioned that it's always good when the traders stand in solidarity, you're closing businesses today. That means there is no money that you're going to make today. Why is that so?
Thank you so much. Now, two things. One, we have started our strike today. And all shops across the country, all traders in different sectors are urged to close because of a number of reasons, but I'll put them into three. One is we think that we are being unfairly treated as traders in terms of taxation. Two, we think that there should be best ways in which taxes are enrolled and how people are onboarded. And we think that the way IFRIS has been brought on board and how people are being onboarded, people don't understand, because up to today, if you ask any trader what IFRIS is, they will stammer about IFRIS. That only means that there is lack of sensitization, that we are rolling out something that people don't clearly understand. The third issue is we have had a number of engagements about taxation. And we are starting to see non-compliance from the people who are supposed to give us the answers, or slow answers. And we're thinking that the best way to speed up the process is to be able to close our shops. So that's why the strike is on.
Okay. Let me get to Mr. Bossa now. Mr. Bossa, when you look at this standoff, we're getting into the second week of the SEB. What is your stand as the Uganda Revenue Authority? Because I want to believe it's not a good image you would love to see from the traders.
It's unfortunate that we are at this point as a country, and our relationship with the traders is a long-standing relationship. We have worked with them on a lot of issues to do with tax administration, but also capacity building in a lot of the tax administration issues. But what we're dealing with right now are basically two things. One is a technology adoption issue, and we have been here before as a country. We have gone through a digital migration for broadcasting. The country had the same kind of cry for people who are players in this space. We have been through the scratch card elimination of airtime. The country went through almost a similar cry. That one was even much bigger because even the parliament was against it, and we came through it. If you look at all those technology adoption issues, we managed to overcome. Today, if you ask somebody whether we should go back to analog from digital, I doubt if anybody would want to do that. If somebody was told today that we have to go back to scratch cards, it may look like an inconvenience. So that is something we also need to manage with the adoption of electronic receipting, and that is an issue. Two, we're also dealing with a mindset change. We have people who have not been used to paying taxes, people who have been not used to submitting value-added tax that they have collected, and now we are coming in an era where we have technology, where we have platforms that create transparency for people to do so. And I'll just illustrate to you. We have about 4,000 registered VAT taxpayers in and around Chikubo area. But much as these people are registered, the issuance of e-invoices is actually very low. Now, that does not speak to people who do not know. That speaks to people who have been onboarded, because for you to be actually registered and on IFRIS, we will have approached you, we will have helped you to onboard, and basically we knew you as a registered VAT taxpayer on IFRIS. But when we look at the issuance record being very low, we are coming in to supervise and say, you're a VAT taxpayer, you on IFRIS, you are supposed to give an IFRIS invoice every time you do a transaction. Now, that seems to be problematic. Why? Because we have, I'll give you a classic example. We have a typical restaurant here that we have supervised for 4 weeks in the month of February. In the first 2 weeks of our supervision, they basically were issuing on average every day 48 e-receipts, but they're on IFRIS. So we got an officer who sat next to the register, and in the next 2 weeks, they were issuing on average every day 195 receipts. So the question is, what magic is the officer bringing? What just speaks to you is that we have people with the system. When they are not supervised, they will bypass the system and probably do a manual process. And if they're being supervised, everything will be on a system. We are dealing with a mindset change. And unfortunately, we have leaders, especially in the trade, who have decided to run this as a propaganda. There are pains that traders have, but they're using the wrong reasons to justify their pain. Because everything they're talking about in terms of tax administration either has a solution, or we can actually sit around a table to find how easily and how best can we adopt this.
Bossa, do you think with IFRIS it was also another way of trying to come up with a solution to put an end to tax evasion? Because I love the example you've used of the restaurant, and it's very common in businesses today. For those who actually have the e-invoices with them, many, if you do not have a supervisor or you are a supervisor there, they're not going to sell everything using, let's say, the POS. And that means no other good is going to be recorded.
Thank you. Now, what you've just demonstrated is people who know what they're doing.
Okay.
You know when to use the system, because when you use the system, there is clarity, there's traceability, there's transparency and accountability.
Okay.
The taxman knows. When you don't use the system, that means you're acting in the dark, and you can choose which tax you pay. So at the end of the day, what we're dealing with here is that if you are using the IFRIS system, it has benefits for business. But for we as tax administrators, we are able to see anybody who is evading tax. We are able to see anybody who is suppressing sales. We are able to see anybody who is dealing in invoice trading. We are able to see anybody who is dealing in VAT fraud. Now, the people who have customarily been players in that field, if you are doing any of those crimes, you have a reason to get worried. You have a reason to actually propel propaganda, because at the end of the day, you know what's coming to you. We are cleaning house.
Okay. Joshua, from the perspective of the traders, they have so many worries. Many of them are even scared that they can survive in business this year.
Correct.
With the move of Uganda Revenue Authority to
Correct.
go hard on them with IFRIS. What are some of those specific concerns from IFRIS that they feel should not be pushed going forward?
Now, IFRIS has a couple of issues. One is that traders don't know what IFRIS is.
Okay.
What is set out to be used for.
Okay.
What URA is trying to achieve. We know URA is trying to achieve tax collection. And on the other side, traders don't know how the system works, how to use it. And that's what we are talking about, that onboarding process must be gradual and people must be sensitized to be brought on board. That is number one. Two, Mr. Bossa ably says, the system needs somebody dedicated to use it. What does that imply into a business? I must employ somebody who knows the skill, who knows how to punch in those things in a computer, a laptop, or a phone, and that is their job only throughout my business. Now, that's a cost to business. So am I willing to bring in that cost to business for the purpose of collecting taxes? Another cost from me? I don't think so. The third issue is it needs a gadget. I must acquire a gadget for me to do that. Now, do I need to buy a gadget? Another cost to my business? I'm on the line of survival, and these are costs that are coming into my business to be able to pay taxes. I think that is very unfair to the taxpayer. Then lastly, I think URA has good intentions. I may say that from what I'm hearing, what Mr. Bosa is saying. But then the way it is administered, it is a threat to business. It is a threat to people who want to engage into business, because people ask us, people call us, they say, I'm retiring next year. I'm going to have my gratuity, I'm going to have my NSSF, about 1 billion shillings. What do I start doing business? But then I hear about the taxes. All the researches that have been done today on businesses, why businesses are failing. Earlier on, it was lack of capital. Today, number one,
the capital is there,
is taxes. Number one, it is taxes. And this is what we are saying, that, you know, traders have been people who have paid taxes from the onset of privatization. Because even when government was doing business, nobody else knew how to run private sector business until privatization came in. But the traders, in their own right, were doing private business. So we introduced government to business. Government failed to do business on its own, and they moved out of business. They said, no, we cannot handle because we don't have the magnitude, the mind, we don't have the temperament, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the abilities to run business. And they handed it over to the private sector. Now, the private sector is saying, the way you are administering taxes makes businesses fail. Why is government arguing that?
Okay. Mr. Bosa, when Joshua mentioned something here, very important, that many of the traders do not understand the nitty-gritties of IFRS. This is something that I would want to understand. Have you done enough to educate these local traders? Because every other year we have new traders in the market.
True
But have you done enough to ensure that everyone is at the same level of understanding this IFRS? Because it's now 4 years down the road since it was enrolled out. Even those who actually have ideas about it are still against it.
First, let's work the numbers.
Okay.
We have on the register 56,000 VAT registered persons, and these persons that are VAT registered have all been inducted, onboarded, and on the use of IFRS. Being on IFRS is one thing, you being able to issue a receipt is another. So I could be on IFRS but not issuing, and that is a choice I take. Not because I do not know, but there is something that probably is stopping me to do so. Either I am evading, either I am not in business at that point in time. But with the 56,000, we have over 20,000 of those taxpayers using IFRS, and they are not mandated to do so. You get the point?
Yes,
we have 20,000 taxpayers who do not meet the VAT thresholds, but are on IFRS because of the benefits IFRS brings. So if people who are not mandated to be on IFRS are actually using IFRS, then how about those who are actually mandated to do so by law, who are crying that we do not know? IFRS, when we rolled it out 2011, effectively, we started with the big boys, you know, the manufacturers, the big supermarkets, and we came cascading downwards. All through, that was sensitization. We were engaging. We reached a standpoint where we came down to the likes of the Chikubo, and we introduced because they could not do system-to-system integrations, they don't use counting softwares, we introduced the EFDs, electronic physical devices, and they said they were expensive. So at that point in time, we know what we're about, but we're saying it's expensive. We would have loved to use it, but it's expensive. Then we go ahead and we come up with applications, desktop applications, that you can put on a computer, you can put on a tablet, and even on a mobile app. And at that point in time, we are all good. Sensitization is good. We're in Chikubo since November, 3 years ago, last year. And in all that time, we are basically doing workshops, we're doing door-to-day visits, we visited over 110 arcades, and at that point, we are good to go. The challenge is, when people get to know the consequences, because we're dealing with the VAT tax here, and the VAT tax here, many people, especially in the Chikubo location, have been actually collecting this VAT tax. but not remitting it. I'll give you an example. The commercial landlords. Once you're a commercial landlord, you have to collect VAT on your rent.
Okay.
And these guys have been actually remitting VAT, but not in the right amount. Now that we have a system to monitor how much VAT they're supposed to be giving, they realize that we now know how much VAT they have been keeping for themselves, and somehow now that is a hula baloo. They have gone on to even put an additional 18% on their tenants, simply because the original one is now part of your profitability, and you now want your clients to pay more than that. Some of the big landlords are actually even financing these kind of rates. So you will see a deliberate effort for somebody to undo a good program, and this is a program that is working elsewhere in the world. If you look at our neighbors in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, they have been through this path. I think Tanzania is the one that got a golden opportunity, where they let Magufuli meet the traders. I think the way His Excellency is going to meet them, and he told them that electronic transaction and receipting is here to stay. It is the future of revenue mobilization. What we need to be talking about is how best can we help you. And I think this is what we need in our country as well. We don't need to riot. IFRIS is the future of revenue mobilization. How can we help our brothers and sisters to onboard easily, to be able to access, to be able to understand? And those need a discussion on the table and not on the streets.
Joshua, when Mr. Bosa mentioned something about URA being in Chikobo since November, I would wish to understand, from your own view, what is the relationship between URA and the traders as of now, before we even get into this strike?
I think the traders over time have really listened to URA.
Okay.
And that it's not questionable, because we have had a lot of engagements with the URA. URA has organized tax clinics with the traders. Now the issue is on how does this work? What impact does it have on my business? What Mr. Bosa is explaining is right. IFRIS has impact on tax collection. The discussion we are having is, what impact does it have on my business? The impact it has on my business is it's a cost. How is it a cost? I must dedicate time to it. It fits very well in the industry, in the supermarket systems, because it's an automatic one-way system. Now, if it is in the shop where I am selling merchandise that has VAT, right? I need to dedicate somebody to be able to punch in these items on a daily and issue those receipts. Secondly, we have an issue of the system hanging. It is there, it happens. We have traders who have brought in trailers of cement, and they cannot get an IFRIS receipt until later in the evening. And the trader was delivered at 9 a.m. Now, these issues, you can imagine, trade and the business is about the right decision, urgent decision, and quick decisions. Now, you are in a situation where you must do something with a second shift function. That is not trade.
Okay.
And we're not opposed to revenue collection, to tax collection. I think the traders have been paying taxes for a lot of time. And I think government has been actually increasing the level of the portion of budget that is funded locally. Because we have been diligent, because we have been very truthful on how we remit our taxes. Yes, if the invasion is there of taxes, if people don't want to pay taxes, then the question is why?
Okay.
And if we answer that question correctly, then you will know that the why answers are because this system is only one-sided.
Okay.
It gives clarity to the tax collector, but then does not consider a number of other expenses and efforts that the business person goes through.
Okay. Joshua, do you think the traders are more worried about paying direct taxes, or they would rather pay indirect taxes?
You see, indirect taxes look very convenient for the collector.
Okay.
But then it pushes the business to an overdrive in terms of tax collection, in terms of remittances.
Okay.
We want to see a system that allows businesses to grow. And actually, this is what we keep saying.
Okay.
That the tax system now collects, and then doesn't allow the businesses to grow. When you're doing business and then you reach a point where all your revenues are being taken away by taxes, and you reach a point where you have to borrow from a bank to pay taxes, then there is something wrong. And as a country, we need to respond to that. And this is what the traders are saying. They are saying, look, we have been overtaxed to an extent that if I have a bill of 25 million that I have to remit to the bank, I have to URA, I have to go to the bank to pick a loan of 30 million to pay back taxes. This is a full report, partly by Bank of Uganda and other economists in the country.
All right, Mr. Bossat, now I need to understand. Let's try to educate a little bit here. You've mentioned about the good that IFRIS is coming with, but you've not highlighted for us maybe 1, 2, 3 advantages that a trader will gain if they pick it up.
Okay, brilliant. For starters, IFRIS comes as a package.
Okay.
It has a package for stock management. So when you make purchases and you input them into IFRIS, then you're able to manage your stock, your stock levels. You even get warning. You can set warning levels when you get alerts when your stock levels are depleting. Managing stock is very important for any business because that means anywhere you are, you don't have to be physically in your place to be able to look at your stock. Because once your people are selling through the system, then you're able to see how stock manages. You're able to manage your sales because when you sell, basically a record is made. So at the end of the day, the issues of your staff actually stealing from you in terms of sales and so on is actually minimized or not there. It helps you also to be able to file your returns conveniently. Because you have transaction data that has been generating throughout the month, when it comes to filing a return, today we have pre-filled forms. You only have to access your form. It has all the transactions you have been doing. It shows you what VAT is payable, and bang, you just press a button and you're able to file. If you were to do all this in a manual setting, you probably need a person or a number of persons to manage your stock, to manage your filing, and basically this one is there to create efficiency for the business. And I think that is why over 20,000 small businesses that are not obligated to be on IFRIS or even to use IFRIS, and they are not VAT registered, are actually using this package for that purpose. But what maybe people need also to appreciate is that IFRIS is there to supervise the collection of VAT. VAT is not paid by the business. It's important for people to know that if you are a trader, when you buy your supplies, whether from a manufacturer or you have imported them, these supplies come with the VAT component already in there, meaning you have already spent money on VAT as a business, which we call your input VAT. The requirement of the law is that you have to pass over that VAT to your consumer. So what the business has to do is to charge VAT on their sales, and that's what we call your output VAT. For the business to account, you get your output VAT minus your input VAT, and your input VAT may not only be on supplies. You may have paid electricity. Electricity comes with VAT on, so that's part of your input VAT. If you have paid for water, water comes with a VAT component. All that is part of your VAT. A business does not pay VAT. So when you subtract your input VAT from your output VAT, the difference is what you give URA. There are usually two positions. You either have a positive position where there's money you give as the VAT component, or you may find yourself in a negative position. In a negative position, that means you have spent more on input VAT than on your output VAT. You request for a refund and you will get a refund. So that principle, many businesses don't seem to be alive to it, because VAT is not there to burden the business because it's a consumption tax paid by the final consumer. What also they may not have told you, even when you're an importer, many of the people in Chikubu sometimes import by themselves. When they're computing their selling price, they will take into consideration the cost of the product, the cost of the freight, the costs to them in terms of import duty. All those will be translated into a price that you pay. So actually, as a buyer. So actually, even those taxes we talk about at importation, the import duty, they're actually transferred to the consumer. So you'll find that a business like that, like in Chikubu, will have to make a profit and be able to declare business income at the end of the year. You get it? Yes. So some of these things, while our brothers and sisters are aware of them, they carefully and deliberately skew the message to their benefit, to claim ignorance. Yesterday I was talking to a trader, big trader in there, and she was even crying. But from her narrative, you realize she has been in business. This VAT has been here since 1996. But she a big business like her, she sounded like she only got to learn that VAT exists 2 weeks ago. So you realize that there is something here that we are fighting, and that is probably a mindset change. It may take us time as a country. Other people have been here, and we will be able to overcome. What we don't believe in is that this process doesn't have to happen on the street. We don't have to be riotous. We don't have to inconvenience others who want to do business. We have forums where this can happen, and we can make change happen in an amicable and in a meaningful way.
Mr. Mawere, when Mr. Bosa mentioned something to do with not hitting the streets to strike, which alternative solutions do traders have? Because if the traders come to an understanding of going on a strike, last week they had one, even today, which clearly shows they are done with all these, meetings and everything. What are the alternative solutions that they want to come up with if the strike do not pay off?
First, allow me just clarify on something that Mr. Bosa talked about on the taxes and being a component put together and then we sell. Now, we are thinking as a country that we are working in isolation as a country. But when you look at the East African community, most of the times when we go to China to import things or we want to buy things, we are buying with other countries, with people from other countries, from the same sellers. But when you buy something and import it in this country and take it to the market, and the same thing is imported by somebody in Kenya and take it to the market, they will sell it at a cheaper price than your price. And that's because we are factoring in the taxes that are here. Now, there is no trader in this world who starts a business to keep stock. Our value comes out of turnover. Now, when somebody brings items and they cannot move them in the market because they are selling it at a certain price that the market doesn't accept, then there is a problem that is not with the trader. It's the problem with the taxes, with the things that they cannot change about that price. And so I want Mr. Bosa to start also looking in that direction, that if some traders opt not to buy from fellow traders here and rather travel to Kenya, buy the same items and import them to Uganda, and they still sell at a cheaper price, that level of business means that there's something wrong with our taxation regime. Then back to what you've asked. The traders have been engaging. We started with the tax administrators. We talked about several issues that are affecting us. They had their responses, and they reached a point where they said, now what you are asking, we cannot do it. It needs some sort of policy discussion. We reached out to the Ministry of Trade. We got nothing from there. I think that ministry has a lot of issues. And the next stop was Parliament. Because it's a policy issue. You engage some people in Parliament, They said they will discuss it. And indeed, I think it's under discussion because they're doing consultations on the taxes. Then another angle says this is an issue of the Ministry of Finance. So you go to the Ministry of Finance, discuss the same issues. Ministry of Finance says, you know, some of the things you have discussed I can do, others are not in my prerogative. So you need to go higher. Now, the higher step that they recommended was, that is the prerogative of the president. And we've said it's okay. We are traders, we are citizens of this country, and we ably want this country to grow. But then it cannot grow with the failing businesses. It has to grow with businesses that are working. Businesses that people can scale up. People must remain with some money to pay their employees, live a livelihood that is meaningful, and also scale up their businesses. Now, if people are failing to do these three, then we seriously need to beat the president. And we won't relent on that. We are saying that we are closing our businesses until we find amicable solutions to this call.
Well, amicable solutions. I don't know, Mr. Bossa, do you think these strikes will make changes? Because to Uganda Revenue Authority, it does seem like you're not moving to the direction where the traders want you to.
Actually, we are interested in what's going on. Okay. We are also equally concerned because you also may realize it is not all the traders. It's a particular section of traders. But this section of traders have been able to influence even others. So we have traders out there who legitimately are intimidated of what they are able to do. So they will follow in the bandwagon, not because they want to strike, but some are actually doing their business the right way. If you look at the traders who are already onboarded, you would realize that probably they would have no real issue because they already know what is going on and they're only looking for ways on how they can perform better. The people who are probably against this are those who are expected to be on board but are not willing to get on board. But think of it this way. We have traders we have seen who are being used to incite others into this closure. These traders are selling tires, some are vending shoes, others are selling bananas, and these are people who probably have nothing to do with VAT, but somehow they have been convinced that their survival depends on their VAT friends, and so you have to join the bandwagon. So my thinking is that we understand where the challenge is. It has been well communicated. There are some processes, just has been elaborated, that are ongoing, and we need to give the processes time. I think what we have seen from the traders is that they will say the taxes are high, so we want you to scrap them. And they think that you will wake up one morning and just say that tax is gone. There are processes if you're going to amend a policy on tax. We know that. Okay. So these processes have to be respected. So at the end of the day, I think we need to be honest to each other, we as administrators, but also even the business people, and be able to work out lasting solutions on these issues. I think there are many issues we have handled with the traders where we have gotten solutions, and these solutions were not knee-jerk solutions. Some of them took time, anything to do with policy. Right now I know that there is a paper that has been authored by the PSST. It is before cabinet, and it is on issues of the duty on garments and textile, the kilogram. Because we also have seen the effect. We have actually contributed our feedback on what we have seen, and we feel that yes, that has to be looked into at a policy level. That is happening, and they know it is happening. But if somebody decides to strike simply because a verdict has not yet come from cabinet, then you're trying to shortchange the process. So a bit of patience basically may be required at this point in time.
There was something Mr. Mawere mentioned here earlier, that it does seem like there is a reason as why some traders do not want to pay taxes or to remit taxes. And by the look of things, many of the traders are saying the taxes are high.
Okay, two things there. One, recently I think in a press conference, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, put out some statistics, and these are research statistics if they're coming from the PSST, about Uganda's debt burden. and he actually compared us to some of the countries that neighbor us. I think Uganda's debt burden is about 11%, and we are ranked 140. We have countries like Rwanda and Kenya that are far ahead of us, that are ranked in the 90s, okay? And their debt burden is about 17%. So you realize that we have people or countries that have a bigger debt burden than us, but probably do not make as much noise as we are making. And look at the detail. As URA, we have been monitoring the performance of the electronic physical receipting and invoicing. And in the last 6 months, we have looked at some sectors like the supermarket sector, and in the last 6 months, we have identified 7 billion we were losing in VAT. But we're able to identify it now because we have a system that can track and trace. We looked at the people who are doing manufacturing of packaging material, and we are losing 4 billion in VAT. So this is money they ought to declare, but did not declare. But we are only lucky that we now have the means, the capacity, and the technology to be able to track that. We are looking at software installers. In the last 6 months, they did not declare VAT of 181 million. Okay, so you realize that there are leakages in our system. The only way we can close these leakages is by building capacity, using technology, and being more efficient. We are not talking about even introducing new taxes as of now. If there are any new taxes to come, probably next financial year. Let come 1st July. But we are saying that our current system has leakages. Now, if the people who are already using systems can show that level of leakage, how about our brothers and sisters who are collecting VAT and are not on any system at all? So you realize where we are, where we need to go. At the end of the day, it may seem painful, it may take us a while to get there, but I think, like I say, we are dealing with a mindset change, we are dealing with a technology adoption challenge, and we just need to find a way of overcoming it amicably and easily.
Well, to you, our dear viewer, you can share your view and opinion on this strike. What next, really? And what do you think should be done to put an end to this trader standoff in the capital? Because it's going to have an economic impact on us as a country, and it's something that is not good to the ears, if I'm to put it in that way. Now, I do have a comment here coming in, and this one is saying, Mr. Bossa, you are unfair to the business community because the traders don't, you're making it appear that the traders don't want to pay tax, but it's not like that. He says that the country tax regime is bad. He puts some figures, 90.5% tax and 80.5% tax. He says that is not just for us traders. And then he says, if you can pretty much give an explanation to that, because he puts it here that import duty is 35%, VAT is 18%, withholding is 0.06%, structure tax is 1.5%, income tax is 30%, a total up of 90.5%. So he says it is quite unfair for them to stay in business. Your explanation to that? He didn't leave his name.
I think first of all, I need to what I shared here were some facts and figures.
Okay.
It is for the viewer to discern in there. I'm not saying that the businesses don't want to pay tax.
Okay.
I am telling you what we have found.
Okay.
We have been able to catch some people with their hands in the cookie jar.
Okay.
We have been able to identify leakages in tax. And I just put it plain as such. But also to give you a reason why we are doing what we are doing, because if we are going to mobilize revenue for this country, we need to be more efficient in revenue mobilization. We need to close the leakages. And that's basically what I was saying. There are many people, by the way, 90% of the taxes we collect at URA are paid voluntarily. It's only about 10% of the taxes that we have to run around and remind people and put an agency notice and things of like. So we need to appreciate the taxpayers of this country because they do an awesome job. The challenge is that 10%, the money left on the table is a staggering amount of money in terms of leakages. So just to let people know, if you look at the import duty regime that we are running, it is managed by the East African Community Customs Management Act. So we use also the external customs tariff, which is used all around East Africa. There may be a few modifications, but we're all using the same regime. Those taxes you see do not only apply to Uganda. They apply to us as a region. Okay. Even when we are making amendments in there, we have to go to the Council of Ministers at the East African community and make an appeal for any modifications. So if we are feeling the pain, it's understandable. If we want to make adjustments, usually countries have made adjustments based on their circumstances and what sectors they want to grow, what sectors they want to protect, what sectors they want to promote. That can be done. That is not a cause for somebody to be on the street.
Okay. And lastly, gentlemen, let me go back to Mr. Mawere Joshua. As we are summing up with our conversation this morning, what is going to happen on ground today? Just give us a picture. And then what is the way forward that the traders are coming up with?
Thank you so much. First, I just want to give a small conclusion on what Mr. Boss has said. One, if I am failing to take my children to school and pay school fees, and all my incomes come from that business, then there is a problem. If the employees in my business cannot get meals for themselves, of the salary that I can pay them, okay, then that's a problem for that business. Okay. If that business cannot pay its premises, then there is a problem in that business. And that problem is not because people don't know how to manage their businesses. Okay. Trade has changed because people in trade now are people who have retired from high-end offices, people have retired from international jobs, so they know what they are doing. People have gone to school, they know what taxation is. They know how to run business and monitor and do accountability. So what is failing these businesses is the over-taxation. And this is what we're speaking about. We're saying businesses are not working anymore because the taxes are in excess. Okay. Now, what do we advise the government? We are advising that there should be frugality in the expenses. And this is what URA cannot speak about. So it's speaking about the collection. It's speaking about how people have not been paying taxes. It's not speaking about the livelihood of people who work in those businesses, the livelihood and the health care of the person who runs that business. So URA cannot speak about that. It speaks about collection. I think that is unfair. We're looking at business from only one side. So we're saying that government should be frugal in its expenditures. They should cut so many of the things that are wasting a lot of money. There are so many illicit cash flows in the system. And we think it is unfair for me to go and borrow to pay 25 million in taxes, and then the next day somebody receives a lump sum of cash for doing nothing. And they're going to receive it even after the next 2.5 years. Okay. I think that is the pain where it comes from. But about today, one, I want to thank the Uganda police forces and the security levels that are there. Please protect our shops because we're not in our shops. We'll continue not being in our shops until we are able to find some amicable solutions with the people that are concerned. To the traders, it is tough, it is hard. We know that children are coming back home. They need to find bread. You need to be able to be financially independent. But this is the cost. If we open up today and do nothing, then tomorrow is very unpredictable. So continue. And I urge you to be more resilient, more disciplined. Please don't be pulled into any kind of violence. It is not a demonstration of violence. And I want to thank all the traders, those in Jinja City Traders Association, Arua City Traders Association, Mbara City Traders Association, Arua City Traders Association, Masaka City Traders Association. We have Fort Porto City Traders Association. Please, thank you very much for the mobilization, for the sensitization. Continue with the cause until we receive some decisions, some solutions that add value to trade. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.
All right. Thank you very much for honoring our invite this morning. Mr. Bossa, your parting shots.
I would like to tell our viewers that every time you hear the word IFRIS, IFRIS equals to VAT. IFRIS is electronic solution, transaction solution that monitors VAT. VAT has been here since 1996 and is not paid by business. A VAT registered business does not pay VAT. Instead, it collects VAT on behalf of the government. Ideally, they transfer VAT to the last customer. So meaning that many people, and the hula balu today that's going on, is being spearheaded by IFRIS, therefore VAT. You realize that businesses have no reason to worry about VAT other than collecting it or transferring it to the final consumer. So many of the people who are involved in this fight probably should not be in this fight at all. And if it is an issue of policy, like VAT, I don't think we need to be on the street. We need to be on the discussion table, finding ways on how to make our environment better, how to make our economy better, and how to impact our revenue mobilization. We encourage those that have already opened their businesses to continue to do so, and we will support you in that endeavor. And those who have decided to have a sit down, probably to rethink and get back to the discussion table. We have been working with your leaders, and we have made milestones on a number of issues in the past. This won't be the last. We will get there. It is a mindset change. We will overcome. It is a technology adoption challenge. We will overcome. Thank you.
All right. There you have it. Ibrahim Bossa, Assistant Commissioner and Public and Corporate Affairs, Uganda Revenue Authority, has been here with us this morning. And then I've also had Mr. Maure Joshua, who is the Chairman, Youth League, Kampala City Traders Association. Just a quick one, let me get through some of the comments here. This one is, Julius says, my dear, let every Ugandan in work age cohort pay tax, MPs, all civil servants, the executives, business community, and reduce on tax exemptions, then close or shut the leakages, corruption, the extravagancy of parliament as well. But every Ugandan who is working is paying taxes, by the way. Thank you for your view, though. This one is asking how many times does one tax an item? You didn't leave your name. This one says URA doesn't mind about people of Uganda because some of these taxes are really harsh on some of us. Up to now, we really need to have solutions because otherwise we are getting out of business. This one also didn't leave the name. Then this one says, good morning UBC, thanks for the program. This is Julius from Eastern Uganda. I want to know who qualifies to pay VAT and how can small businesses survive from this tax. I think Mr. Bossa, you can reply to only that.
Yes, quickly. To be VAT registered by law, you must have a gross turnover of 150 million shillings and above. That is a VAT registered person. So meaning that that's a person who is expected to use IFRIS. Or if you have a turnover of 37.5 million shillings in 3 consecutive months, then you can be a VAT registered taxpayer, and you have to use IFRIS as a way of monitoring VAT.
All right. Many thanks for joining our conversation this morning, dear viewer. And I've seen the comments and opinions that are still coming on. Well, the conversation is still active online, even on the X app using the hashtag UBCGMU. For now, that is it for our newsreel. Coming up shortly is the business updates as well as the traffic updates. Stick around.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock on my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth, all from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people. We are one. Pamoja, we are one. Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Hams Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko pamoja?
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
All right, welcome back from the break, and it's time for us to check into the world of business. Now, yesterday when the Speaker of Parliament was making a tour of the renovated Nelson Mandela National Stadium in Nambole, she also directed the State Minister for Sports, Honorable Peter Ogwang, to collaborate with the Mandela National Stadium management to remove the pioneer buses occupying the stadium land. During the inspection of the stadium's renovation works in Kira municipality, Bwegere, the Speaker among emphasized, you did not bring the buses here, you don't have a contract with the Uganda Land Commission, and neither did they ask you for permission to lease out the land. So we need vacant position, and you must have to report to the House tomorrow. So we expect that report. So this directive follows Ogwangi's explanation that the UPDF Engineering Brigade, the project contractor, faced difficulties while securing parking for the stadium due to the pioneer buses that are still stuck in one of the parking areas of the Nelson Mandela National Stadium. Now, a recent Confederation of African Football report had also cited a lack of parking as a shortcoming for why the Nelson Mandela National Stadium was not ready for it. The question is, though, will these buses get back on the road? Because there are some of the pioneer buses that are still on the road, by the way, in Kampala, that are exploring certain routes. So we wait to see, really, what will happen to them. There was a time when the pioneer buses had just entered business, and it was the only easiest means of transport at the time. Many taxi drivers were struggling to have customers during the time, or to, struggling to have customers, because a pioneer bus, for example, from Kampala to, let's say, Gayaza was 1,000 Ugandan shillings, and someone who would pay 2,000 in a taxi or 3,000 would definitely wait for a pioneer bus. So it was really a difficult time for some of the taxi drivers, and then you could see very many of those pioneer buses now are stuck at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium. Now, away from that, at the start of the show, I did remind you that the President of South Africa is in the country. He landed yesterday night at the Entebbe International Airport, received by Honorable John Mulimba. Now, his visit is a big statement to Uganda, simply because when such heads of state land in Uganda, you do expect a number of agreements to be signed or bilateral relations to be strengthened. And looking at this as a working state visit, you expect a lot of business deals to come along the way. And looking at some of the benefits that we can gain from the same is that he was invited by President Yoweri Museveni, and the purpose of this visit is based on strengthening the relationship between Uganda and South Africa, according to an issue that a statement that was issued last week. So when you look at Uganda's exports to South Africa, just a breakdown of those, there is cotton, gold, fish fillets, tobacco, coffee. We also have fresh flowers. These are goods that we export directly to South Africa, or goods whose market in South Africa is open. And these are goods that are coming in from Uganda. Now, South Africa's exports to Uganda, or the imports Uganda takes from South Africa include vehicles. Those of you who definitely take in, for example, German vehicles, you do realize we also have machinery, plastics, chemicals, electronics, then accessories, petroleum, live animals, books, textiles, footwear, aircraft, and of course, lots of household goods. So South Africa could strengthen links in several areas, including information, technology, health services, agri and agro-processing, biotechnology, and chemicals. South Africa, which is one of the fastest growing economies on the African continent, besides the infrastructure, but when you also look at the strength of their currency, it also says a lot about how far South Africa has come. And when you also look at the fact that they have foreign direct investment for Uganda in key areas such as telecommunications, you look at breweries, finance, poetry, and energy. So we've had a lot to do with South Africa over the years. When you look at some of the companies that have also come from South Africa to invest in Uganda, you look at companies like former ShopRite, all of those from South Africa. You look at MTN Group, which is also in operation in Uganda as of now. These are some of those bigger franchises that have come down from South Africa to Uganda and making different strides in business. Of course, it has been unfortunate that some of these companies are no longer active, like ShopRite, but nonetheless, they were able to create some huge chance for investment in Uganda. Now, Uganda's business community has raised concern about the long periods or 2-week application process in getting visas to South Africa, something that many feel is going to be highly on the table for discussion so that Uganda can easily access, or Ugandans can easily access South Africa visa-free. That is something that we will definitely be following up as well to give you details of that. While in Uganda, visas can be obtained nearly instantly, online or upon arrival at the airport. So visa inquiry, or the South African visa, acquiring a South African visa is something that is very difficult for many. That is something that many businesses or business people in Uganda need to be discussed between the two heads of state. But well, that aside, we now look at the forex market to see how the various currencies are faring. And this time around, I'll start from the bottom of it all with the South African rand, with the visiting president in here and also some South African delegates in the land. You get to realize that buying of the South African rand is at 202.01 shillings, while selling is at 202.54 shillings. And then meanwhile, the US dollar is buying at 3,799.83 shillings, while selling at 3,809.83 shillings. The Great Britain pound buying at 4,736.48, while selling at 4,748.95. And then the euro buying at 4,049.85 shillings, while selling at 4,060.51 shillings. As the Kenyan shilling is buying at 29.22 shillings, while selling at 29.30 shillings. As the Tanzanian shilling is buying at 1.47, while selling at 1.47 shillings. And well, that is it from the Forex updates, and that's how you will find the various currencies faring. That is courtesy of the Bank of Uganda. Now, coming up is Chantal Oliver Kandinda with the traffic updates. Good morning.
Good morning once again. Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Uganda. It's time for our traffic updates. at the moment, if you are using the Kampala-Entebbe road, I'm here to let you know how you can move or how you are standing, especially if you are coming to town. But also, we can also talk about you who is leaving town trying to get to that route. Now, onto the Kampala-Entebbe road, you are seemingly okay to move. Traffic seems to be flowing pretty well, and you will only be finding the holdups when you are approaching the junction that has the Simba African Expeditions Limited. That is where you'll be finding a little bit of smooth flow. That is also the road that takes you to Lubowa, or when you're trying to join Lubowa Road, that junction is the one that has traffic. But moving ahead, you'll be finding it pretty easy for you to move. And as you can see, all the green zones are telling you you're okay to move. Why you see some yellow or orange, it's just to show you that there is slow movement, but nothing much to worry about. Usually it doesn't take more than a minute or two for you to be out of that place. However, when you are getting to Zana side, that is where you, that roundabout, that is where you'll be finding some traffic. Depending on the route that you choose to take, that will also determine how you will be moving or how much traffic you will be headed for. But if I stick onto the Kampala-Entebbe road, as you can see, traffic is literally not there. As you can see, I am moving quite smoothly, and there is nothing for me to worry about until you reach Namasuba stage. That is where you'll be finding a little bit of traffic, and further ahead you will be finding a lot of traffic. A lot of it if you are trying to make your way to town. If you're leaving town going to Kampala-Entebbe road or using that road, you are safe to move all the way. But after you've passed Namasuba stage, that is where you'll be finding a lot of traffic. And if you have another route you can use, I highly recommend you use that route. And this traffic goes all the way, and then also lets up a little bit when you reach the part that has Nyondo side. That is where you'll be finding less traffic. But after that, you're safe to move still. As you can see, there is not much to worry about until you reach Chibuye. That Chibuye also seems to have a lot of traffic, and that is simply because you are now closing into the Kampala Clock Tower. That roundabout, that is where you'll be finding a lot of traffic. So on Kampala-Entebbe road, you who is leaving town and joining the Kampala-Entebbe road from that roundabout, you're safe to move. However, if you are trying if you're trying to come into town, you realize that you'll be finding a lot of traffic. And as I'm trying to move Queen's West side, you will realize there's not much to worry about. Traffic seems to be okay for you to move. If you're joining Katwe Road, when you are leaving or exiting the roundabout, that is where you'll be finding a lot of traffic. After that, there is slow movement, but you are safe to move. However, if you are coming from town, using Katwe Road, trying to join that very roundabout, you'll be finding a lot of traffic on there, so you can brace yourself for that. If you have an alternative route, I highly recommend. Mutebe Road seems to be mad with a lot of traffic, especially if you're trying to join Katwe Road through Mutebe Road, you'll be finding traffic. Kayamba Road, traffic seems to be okay. You have smooth movement of traffic. However, if you are looking at joining Makindye Road, if you're exiting the roundabout, you are safe to move. The traffic is not to worry about. But if you are joining the roundabout from Makindye Road, you have to brace yourself for a lot of traffic. However, upwards from Makindye Road, you're safe to move. As you can see, the junction that has Makindye Road, Mobutu Road, you realize that traffic is nothing for you to worry about. Even that junction, there is not traffic at all. However, Namasole Road